Mr. Xie, do you think that we have to learn the culture while learning English?
Yes, of course.
Why bother learning the culture?
That is a good question. Before we answer it, let's see what culture is in a general sense.
What is culture then?
Different people have different definitions about culture. Some people would define it as the art, literature, music, the architecture, history, language, religion, and the traditions. Some people might focus on the customs and the specific behavior of the people, or, to put it another way, the sum of the social group's patterns of behavior, customs, way of life, ideas, and the values. Still some choose the definition of culture as the way of life of a group of people developed over time and passed down from generation to generation. This broad definition includes every aspect of human life and interaction.
So what do these definitions have to do with learning culture and language?
If we take a close look at the definitions and explore a bit more, we can wrap up the main features of culture and its relationship with language. Number one, culture is shared by the whole community. Number two, culture is a unified system with all the parts inside closely related to one another. Number three, language is deeply rooted in its culture and reflects the daily activities of the people in the culture. Number four, language is not only a tool for communication, but also a means to reflect cultural features of the people. Number five, language is a key component of the culture, is a part of the culture. Therefore, if we don't have a solid understanding of the culture, it's impossible for us to learn a foreign language well, because language is an indispensable part of the culture. By the way, all the features and definitions apply to our English learning and the relationship between English and the culture of the native English speakers.
Would you please give us an example to prove that language is not only a tool in communication, but also a means to reflect cultural features of the people?
Sure. Let's take weather speak for example. When native speakers meet each other, they often say, "Lovely day, isn't it?" "Oh, isn't it cold?" Such greetings are called weather speak, which means among native English speakers, a form of code to strike a conversation with other people. It works as a simple greeting as an icebreaker or a conversation starter, leading to a conversation on other matters the two speakers are both interested in. Don't take it literally for granted that the speaker is interested in talking about the weather, and please try to avoid responding it in a lengthy way. It's quite close to the Chinese way of greeting, 吃了吗? Similarly, when a Westerner comes over to China and for the first time hear a Chinese friend say during a mealtime, "Have you eaten your meal?" he would mistake it as an invitation from the speaker for a meal.
During our English studies, we come across the concept of privacy and hear a lot about it from our professors. Would you be more specific with the words and phrases about privacy?
That is a good question. Let me cite the word nose as an example. Everybody has a nose, and it's important for breathing and smelling. But when used in such expressions or phrases as to nose around, or to be nosy, or to keep one's nose out of others' business, or nosy Parker, the word nose, nosy, does not mean we use to smell or to breathe, but instead refers to the invasion of or to invite others' privacy. In most other cultures, such as in the Chinese culture, asking about or revealing personal data, your name, what do you do for a living, whether you are married or have children, where you live, your religious background, your income, the money you put for an item is no big deal. But in the cultures of the native English speakers in general, asking about age, marital status, income, religious affiliation, even the price for an item, can be like pulling teeth. Every question makes them feel disgusted. The British writer George Orwell once said, "The most hateful of all names in the English ear is Nosy Parker." We would say this is not only true with English, but also true with all native English speakers. By the way, nosy parker does not refer to somebody who parks a car, but instead it refers to a person too curious about others' private matters. In case invasion of privacy occurs, questions like how old are you, how much money you earn every month, native speakers will either smile at you without a reply in a friendly way, or say, I'm not quite sure about it, in an indirect way, or mind your own business, or none of your business, in a harsh way. The message is, try to avoid questions or discussions about private matters as much as possible with native speakers.
From one of the previous definitions about culture, we know the language is deeply rooted in its culture and reflects the daily activities of the people in that culture. I was wondering whether you could give us some examples.
Surely. It's a universal truth that in every language people tend to create new words, phrases, expressions based on daily activities, which is part of the culture. Let me use potato, wheel, and base as examples to support and explain my conclusion. The first word is potato. If you have the habit of listening to English radio programs like VOA, Words and Stories, or American English Mosaic, you will learn that a couch potato or a mouse potato has nothing to do with potato, but instead, the former refers to somebody who likes to spend lots of time sitting or lying on the couch watching television, while the latter describes young people who spend too much time using computers for games, for work. They both originated from the American culture. Historically and culturally, USA was the first country where TV and the PC became popular. Now the second word is wheel. Traditionally, we say United States is a nation on wheels, which implies that the United States was the first country where cars became a daily necessity. There are lots of set expressions and slang words and phrases associated with wheels in American English. So from time to time, we hear American young people use the phrase, a big wheel. It does not refer to a wheel big in size, but rather a slang expression for a very important person, or VIP for short. For example, do you know Mr. Johnson? He's a big wheel in our school. Everybody knows that normally a car has 4 wheels. So when people say a fifth wheel, it does not mean wheel number 5, but instead it refers to a superfluous thing or a person. For example, my son asked me to come at his school track meet, but I felt like a fifth wheel when I got there. They already had enough people to help, so I just stood there feeling useless. One more example. When somebody says, hey Peter, come on and take a look at my new set of wheels, it doesn't mean taking a look at the new wheels he has bought, but instead it refers to the new car he has bought. When a mother asks son, who was the wheel last night on your way home? She is actually asking him, who was driving the car last night? Another example, base. Americans are well known for sports, and baseball is America's national sport. It's not unusual that many popular American expressions come from baseball. For instance, if somebody says, I touched all the bases, that means he did what was necessary to complete a job or an activity. If somebody says, I covered my bases, it means he was well prepared. However, if we say somebody is way off base, we mean he did something wrong, or maybe even dishonest or immoral. So all the above phrases, expressions have the origins in the United States, in American culture. Of course, thanks to the powerful media and the various means of communication among people, they have also become very popular, or at least acceptable, among other native speakers of English. So from the definitions and explanations, we can safely conclude that English and its culture are closely related to each other. Their relationship forms one important aspect in our English language acquisition. Language learning and promotion of cultural awareness must go hand in hand. If we, as English learners, want to communicate with native speakers, we should and must be aware of the culture.
Now we know the importance of the culture while learning English. The next question is, what can we do for promoting cultural awareness during our English studies? Would you please give us some tips on this aspect?
Since the culture plays such a decisive role in our English learning, we have to do our best to make sure that our English language ability and its cultural awareness must be improved at the same time. Now, so what can we do? Here comes the first tip. Whenever we come across a word, a phrase, or expression that we can't understand in its literal sense, we can always ask the speaker for explanation during a conversation. Or while reading, look it up in a paper dictionary or consult a digital dictionary on the internet. The second tip is making guesses. If you don't want to interrupt your conversation or reading practice, you can always get a general idea based on its language context. For example, would you like to go for the movie with us tonight, John? Thank you, but I don't want to be a fifth wheel between you and Mary. So based on the conversation background, we can see immediately that the wheel has nothing to do with the wheel of a car, but instead it refers to a person. Another example, his father is not the clean potato. Again, the word potato is not the potato we have for food, but rather a person. Then if we put the word person in a sentence, we have his father is not the clean person, then we can immediately understand it. More tips on promoting English language ability and its cultural awareness simultaneously. For instance, watching English TV programs, seeing English movies, watching video clips of speeches by native speakers on the internet. Try different means to contact the native speakers, either by talking to them or chatting with them on the internet. Read English novels, newspapers, and magazines in the original. Jotting down about anything you don't understand. So all these tips will help us in one way or another improve our language competence and the cultural awareness.
Thank you for answering all the questions.
You bet.